Namaskar. Today is Purnima. It's called Kojaguri Purnima. Let me explain. Purnima, as you might already know, is the full moon day. This is the day when the moon is in all its glory. And the moon shines with all its glory. And there are so many stories, so many poems written around the glory of a full moon night. Of course, it's called a full moon day, but it's really a full moon night in that sense. Now, it's a very special in this part of the world, in this part of the country, in this region. It's a very special full moon night because this is the night when it is said, it is believed by a lot of people in this culture that this is the night when Goddess Lakshmi descends from the heavens onto the earth and blesses the earthlings, so to say, all of us who are here on earth. Blesses how? Goddess Lakshmi is supposed to be, is believed to be the goddess of resources, goddess of wealth. So she is, when her blessings are really special because she is supposed to bless you with wealth and resources and prosperity. So every household, as ever since my childhood, as I was growing up, I've seen every household, especially Bengali speaking households, would engage in this worship of Goddess Lakshmi. So my grandmothers and my mother, and I would see that in almost every family, they would throughout the day have different kind of rituals performed. They would cook the special food to offer to the goddess, and so much so that because it's a full moon night, it's so believed that the some of the special food that is cooked would be cooked by the moon rays. Now, can you imagine that? Cooked by the moon rays? Well, of course, it's cooked already, and then it is put under instead of cooking and eating it immediately, it's put under the moon rays. And the moon rays come and kind of light it up, and it's there for a few hours, and you look at it in the glow of the moonlight and all the dark within the darkness. Of course, you have to switch off all the lights. Now, this is a tradition which has started much before the advent of electricity and electric lights. So, of course, that's the kind of experience that you need to recreate if you really have to understand the glory of this story or this myth or of these traditions. So you switch off all the lights, and you need to be in a place which is kind of dark, where there is no street lights or no general social electric lights all around you. It's a pitch dark night where it's only the moonshine which is kind of it's with all its glory shining upon the earth, and you keep the food that you have cooked in that moonshine, and you sever the beauty of it in that moonshine. And then finally, that's the time that you are also assuming that Goddess Lakshmi is descending from heaven to earth. Heaven in the sense, of course, as far as as an interpretation could go, is obviously heaven is the spiritual world, which is kind of always seen as heaven, the spiritual world, which is the subtlest world, subtlest aspect of our being, whereas the earth, or that is kind of always signified. It's called heaven and earth is called Swarg and Marth. They are different words. In our language, earth, which means this planet, the planet is defined differently than the concept of the way we would call the spiritual world and the material world. That has two different words in our language, Swarg and Marth. So Swarg, from the spiritual world to the material world, she descends. So she descends as in, you could think of it as from your inspirations or your plans about, let's say, if she's the goddess of resources and of prosperity, then all your plans around your projects which are supposed to bring you prosperity, let's say your inspirations, your plans for the coming year, now that your Durga Puja has happened and you have really celebrated the bounty of what has happened, the harvest that has happened before that, you've celebrated that. Now is the time to plan for the future, for the next year. And these plans are more subtle than the actual project work. So that's in the spiritual realm. Now before even the plan, it's the idea, it's the inspiration. You need to be inspired by ideas. Those are even more subtle than your concrete plans. So if you can think of your inspirations and your ideas as part of your more spiritual side of your being, more consciousness, part of your consciousness, that coming into your mind, mental, into your thoughts as plans, as for actions, and then you are kind of garnering all the energy that you need in order to get into those action, and then you're garnering material resources and engaging in the project and the work to really do your karma or your work or your project, and that will that will result in some outcome, and that outcome is really the prosperity, that real uh, the real seed for the outcome is the seed for the prosperity, let's say. So then that's how this whole journey of from heaven to earth can be interpreted, as the means of prosperity. And Goddess Lakshmi is supposed to be in that whole story the vehicle, or really the one who is bringing all that to you. So who's kind of navigating, is driving this whole journey. You're not the driver always. I mean, there's some force that's driving it. The other force that's beyond you is being symbolized by Goddess Lakshmi. Now, whether you are believing in, whether you are believing in, or whether you are accustomed to, or whether you have been introduced to this particular culture and these kind of beliefs or not, the fact is that every religion, every culture has some way or the other where it kind of assumes that there is some power beyond each one's own power, which is responsible for one's and the society's prosperity. Of course, there is a lot about your own, effort and all that, but there is always, whenever you think of God or Ishwar or Allah or whatever is the force that is beyond the heavenly force, so to say, or the divine force that is driving prosperity, there's some belief, that there is some divine force that is driving our prosperity, and it's not just simply in our own hands. Now, whether you call it luck, whether you call it divine force, whether you call it, by some other name, by Goddess Lakshmi, whatever it is. Now, coming back to how this connects with KarmYogi for 21st century, because KarmYogi for 21st century and the Fit for Life program, as you know, this is a sadhana paddhati, as in this is a process by which we are designing and practicing a daily routine, a daily practice, a practice for sharpening our operating system, our tan pran manchit, our physical, energetic, mental, spiritual system. How is this connecting with Goddess Lakshmi? Now, there is a very, very strong connect, not only with Goddess Lakshmi, but with all of these things. Because, as we have said, we are radically inclusive. It could connect with any religion, any culture, and we would find an interpretation of the cultural systems that exist in any culture or any religion, and we could always find some connect. And that's the one that as an example, is what I'm trying to do today. Trying to connect the concepts of KarmYogi for 21st century with this worshipping of Goddess Lakshmi, which is a very integral part of this culture. Now, when it is assumed that Goddess Lakshmi, this particular night, full moon night, this beautiful night, she is descending from heaven to earth with her blessings to really bless the earthlings with prosperity. Samriddhi, it is called in our language, prosperity. So prosperity really translates to wealth, means, earth, it is called, means earth, wealth. So who doesn't want this? Now, okay, obviously everyone wants this kind of blessings. Now the story goes that when she's descending, if you have switched off your lights, which means in those days not switched off your lights, in traditionally there were no electric lights, so you would be switching off, or you would be extinguishing your lamps. You have extinguished your lamps and you have fallen asleep. Then she is not going to bless you. She's going to bless only the ones who are wide awake. That's why it's called Kojagari Purnima. Kojagari, Jagari, Jagaran means awakening. So ko means who, kind of con. So who is awake in this full moon night? It's a full moon night for only those who are awake. The ones who are awake. So that's Kojagari Purnima. So it's a full moon night for those who are, so you have to remain awake. Now, of course, in order to remain awake, there's another twist to the story, and that's the most interesting angle to it. The twist to the story is that you are supposed to. I mean, in some people believe, not all maybe, but there is a fairly prevalent belief that in this night you're also supposed to play the dice and engage in some kind of risk-taking game. It's called pasha. You got to play the pasha, which is actually a game in which, like any other game where you don't know what the result will be, you just have to play. It's a game. So this notion of a game is very important. You have to engage and you have to play games. And play games, pasha is related with, if you lose, you got to pay money. If you win, you make more money. That is connected with pasha. There's always an outcome, and based on the outcome, you gain something or you lose something very clearly in material terms. That is what pasha is connected with. And it's assumed that this night, as you are remaining awake, as you're waiting for Goddess Laxmi to descend from heaven to earth, you should engage yourself in playing pasha. Now, playing pasha or playing the dice in this manner is also clearly assumed and supposed to be adharma, or not immoral. It's not in the best sense in the engaging in what is called jua. Jua is this kind of a game where you are connecting material things with the outcome is considered immoral. And yes, absolutely, we are totally at KarmYogi for 21st century. We are totally against such games where you are connecting, at the end of it, bartering money, because you have lost the game and won the game and all that. We do not encourage it in any way at all. Yet, we are saying we need to understand where the story comes from. Now, look at it from the point of view of risk-taking ability. Don't we all believe that one of the most important components of wealth and prosperity is the ability to take risk, both for individuals as well as for a society, for a culture, for a collective? Now, if the collective, if a nation, if a tribe, if a company, if an organization has not developed the ability to take risks, there will be no innovation. And no innovation, there is no samriddhi, no prosperity, no wealth. So the key to wealth is innovation, and the key to innovation is the ability to take risks, to not worry about the outcome and do something. Now, that's the spirit in which this has to be understood. Unfortunately, critics could always look at it and say, oh, here, see, this is promoting this immoral activity. Of course, and we need to be very careful that no one, the immoral, the evil, should not sneak in through this wonderful, the wonderful device of the divine device or the divine apparatus of using this full moon night to really be inspired in a manner and be spiritual in a manner, spiritual is about inspiration. So inspired in this manner, become spiritual in this manner, so that you can actually go beyond the realms of thinking about what's in it for me. You shun that what's in it for me. You just play for the sake of playing, for the sake of doing it. And then, of course, you get something material back out of it. So, if you compare this with the whole notion of KarmYogi, where traditionally, and when we say KarmYogi for 21st century, obviously it stands on the pillars of KarmYogi, and there the pillars of KarmYogi stand on notions like, do an act, don't. You have only your right on doing something. You don't have a right on the results. These are important, very important shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna is actually in the battlefield telling Arjuna, Karmani eva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You only have your adhikar or your right on what you are doing, on your karma. You don't have any rights on the karma phal, never on the karma phal or what outcome of on that you don't have a right. You only have the right on doing it. Now, many people in modern times would say, hey, how does that measure up at all? Because the whole modern culture and modern ethos and the modern philosophy and the modern economy seems to be based on what's in it for me, cost-benefit analysis and all that. So obviously, when you go deeper into the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Bhagavan Sri Krishna is explaining the relationship between Prakriti and Purush, which or Purush means between nature and artificial in stuff that we do, in using our own will, in exercising our free will when we do something, our karma or kriya. So there he is explaining this, and he explains the relationship very, very, very eloquently. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasya ahankar vimuratma kartahamiti manyate, he says. So what it means is, he's trying to explain the relationship between, as I said, nature and artificial. What nature is, what is happening in nature and what we are doing. He's saying which is, how does this relate? And it says that gune karmani sarvasya, all that is happening all the time, the karma or the work that is happening is just an expression of the quality that we have imbibed in ourselves. Through our sadhana, through our practice, we imbibe qualities, and that quality automatically just expresses itself as karma. And those who are thinking that I am doing it are actually fools. They are fools who are completely drowned in their ego. So ahankar vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. The ahankar is the ones who are full of their ego, drowned within their big fat egos, are the ones who are foolishly thinking that they are the doers, who have done something. So these are kind of, when you connect this kind of thinking, philosophy, or this kind of belief system on which the entire KarmYogi for 21st century's Fit for Life, the sadhana paddhati is based, how do you reconcile it with Goddess Laxmi and her aradhana, her puja, and waiting and playing pasha in order to connect these kind of thing with outcomes? Well, that is the beauty of it all, of this practice, of this paddhati, that we are radically inclusive. We understand that this pasha is not about some immoral kind of activity of gaining something by making someone lose and gain and all that win and lose game. Not exactly like that. It's what is being talked about here, or what's being celebrated, is the spirit of taking risks, where you can do something without thinking about the outcome. And that's if I kind of now connect Goddess Laxmi with Goddess Saraswati, which is another, they are sisters, sort of both daughters of Durga, it is assumed. So Saraswati, who's assumed to be the goddess of learning and knowledge and wisdom. So there the connection now comes in very, very eloquently, because now we can talk about the whole educational process, which is giving us wisdom, which is giving us knowledge. That educational process, if we look at today, what happens even in our country and in most places, is focused towards getting us appointment letters for a job. A job is something, a job kind of mentality is something that is pushing us, that only if I know what is the amount of money that I will get at the end of the month, if I know my benefits at the end of the month, at the end of the year, only then I will indulge in this activity, otherwise I won't. That's the job mentality. And the entrepreneurial mentality is that, okay, let me just jump in and take the plunge and do something. Now, it's this what is being said is that this entrepreneurial mentality is the one and the only one that will help us create wealth. It's the one that will help us create prosperity in individuals, in the collective, in society, in this country. It's not our zeal to be educated in such a manner that we should get an appointment letter. It's in any case only 4%, if I take India as a country, only 4% of the entire workforce has an appointment letter. There's no government, there's no Goddess Laxmi, there is no religion, there is no economist who can transform this, not only overnight, in any time to come, in a manner so that 100% will be taken care of through appointment letters. Today it's only 4%, 5%, 95% have to in any case stand on their own feet. But the education system doesn't help them stand on their own feet. It teaches them how to earn an appointment letter, which is a mentality of neither a mentality of KarmYogi nor a mentality of Goddess Laxmi. So Goddess Laxmi is teaching you today that in this full moon night, as you bask in the glory of this, the stuff that you have cooked for your goddess, waiting for her to bless you, play the pasha, which means play the game. Be inspired by the ability to take risks. Don't wait for an appointment letter. With that message, I would like to end today's satsang, friends. Thanks a lot for tuning in, listening in. Take it easy and take care.